I think recording today's journal is going to make me feel a little better. Uh, Kilua is still careful, and don't bounce on him. Kilua is still alive, which is good. He's still got that little spark in his eyes. He even ate like a good amount of a can of wet food earlier, which is good. He's a little soldier. He's just holding on. To be honest, like it is amazing how, like with Gon, you could really tell that it was time. Like his energy was quickly depleted. But with Killua, he is just he's going and going and going and going and I think this like kidney health food is kind of preserving him as much as he could be. I don't know. Like he still gets a little appetite left. He is getting lighter. He is getting skinnier. I'm just everything is all thrown off. My whole life just feels like a big swirl of confusion and dread and a lack of direction. I feel nauseous. My stomach is turning knots. My head constantly just feels numb, like disconnected, some kind of hazy awareness. I've spoken about this before, just this feeling of disconnect. And earlier, like, and I guess this has nothing really to do with what I was just saying, but earlier, like, Killua was napping, and he was napping in the little pet room, so I just let him be. I didn't want to smother him or anything, because that kind of makes him uncomfortable, and he's still hanging around, and uh, and during that time, I actually got to do some tasks on that remote job thing. Apparently, I have a payout of $18 waiting for me, or something like that, and I I just feel strange. Everything's just a big swirl, a big smoothie, a big milkshake. Milkshake is better because shaking, shaking, better analogy. Shaken, but just like of just time and work and like rather than I'm gonna complain about it. I'm gonna let myself complain here. This remote job I have, like I would rather have like instead of this task based any hours job, I really would rather have like storyboarding or music or working with a team. Just sitting by myself completing you know small tasks and getting paid out. It's like I I don't know what to feel. You know, Kilua's health is I mean it is how it's going. And this job has so many orientation steps and assessments and things like that, and I'm just starting it and there's so much like uncertainty around it and like housing and safety and the like I sent one more follow up with that creative job I was talking about, and like yeah, there's been no I don't think it's gonna happen. I think that person really does just you know no respect. No respect, you know Rodney Dangerfield, that kind of no respect at all. No respect. Uh, but just just thinking about what I can thinking about. I saw this video this morning that was just like how to make a living off of doing art commissions and things like that. So sometime tonight I'll probably go through that and try to. I followed the advice of one video before to create my commission sheet and things like that, and slowly building up the advice of different things and figures and videos. So after I finish this journal, I'll probably go and watch that and see if that'll do anything for me. What I can do that's in there, and try and get it for myself. And yeah. You have no idea the amount of joy and happiness I get out of of working with my one very good friend to write that little world we create and to come up with every aspect of it and come up with the concepts and the stories and the ideas. There's just something about not being alone and creating something, if that makes sense. And it's funny. The one thing I have really now to kind of center and anchor myself is Friday, Saturday, Sunday going out to that work and coming back home. And I really do. I wish I had something like that just at home, like something to really pour myself into, something that I'm best at, something that is drives me, something I could really sink my teeth into, something where I would be absolutely productive. I'll bring this up again. There was that time the creator of Dragon Quest was talking about, like, I wouldn't have done well just working an office job. Making Dragon Quest is where, like, my best work, where I'm most fulfilled, and by extension, by consequence, where he ended up doing the most for, other people. But he was talking about, like, I wouldn't have been suitable for that kind of job. I'm glad I made it to where I am, and I'm thinking about that, and like, I want something like that. What can I do that is like that? What I'm the best at, These guys had all manner of opportunity and options and places to go, and I'm just kind of stuck in the middle of nowhere, not much opportunity around, and trying, other things, trying applications, trying all kinds of things, and getting saddled with those emotions of just, putting out, and it's that feeling of, am I putting my effort even into the right thing? Am I putting my efforts in the right places? Am I spending my time on the right thing? And that got me thinking, just like, that got me thinking, especially with this creative job who spoke to me on, like, the first day, and then just has completely ignored anything else afterwards, utterly and completely. And it just made me realize just how one of my absolute biggest pet peeves is just having my time wasted, my time used up, my people not, people just kind of, whether they know it or not, just flying in the face of my efforts and my time and my emotions, Not that I'm not saying, the whole world needs to mind my feelings and my emotions. And, I'm just saying, like, a basic level of empathy and respect. I mean, come on. You started talking to a person, you even presented them with the possibility of an opportunity, and then you're going to go and play with them by just, I guess, never having meant it, by, never getting back or whatever, It's like, I'm thinking to myself, like, and I know I said it before, but it's like, I'm not even upset if you say no, or if you reject, or whatever. That's fine. It's the fact that you wasted my time, and my expectations, and my looking, my searching, more mental energy spent on trying to figure out if I'm doing something wrong, or if the person just needs prompting, or if they forgot, or whatever, on top of all the other things I'm spending, mental energy on. And I don't know. I really don't know. I'm thinking about, like, different sources of revenue, thinking about different jobs, different, all kinds of things. And I've got this remote job, but there's something so disheartening about it just being this task-based, sitting in front of a computer, clicking and typing up evaluations and prompts, and just sitting there. I'll do it, but it's like I can find something in every area. I can find a little something in each area that's not even where, not anything I practiced with or anything like that. So, I'm hoping tonight, as I follow this video, about commissions and making money with art, that maybe, something could happen with that, But, I, it would almost be better to just have, like, a second dedicated job doing something with people. With just a little bit of writing, a little bit of illustration, a little bit of storyboarding, a little bit of character design, something like that. Music. I put these applications out all manner of ways, all manner of directions, to all manner of places, and I do these things, and I keep looking, It's I don't even have the right words to properly describe it. It's like this disappointment that I don't know the right people, don't have the right opportunities, the right timing, dealing with other people who don't respect the time or the energy I put into, contact or anything like that. Appreciative of the people who will at least say, no, we're not interested. That kind of thing. Concerned about this little life over here. Trying to prepare myself for, living without him, his little personality, his being, his every way every little joy that is him, you know, the life we give to each other. I got these three little kittens. Also, I wonder if they know what's happening with Killua, if they can even understand it, but I'm not sure. Uh, I don't really know. I'm preparing myself, to have those three with me, Numa, Erdrick, and Erdwin, and getting used to only having their personalities. And I don't say that to put them down or marginalize them or anything like that. I say that because they are both all three of them, both Gon and Killua are very different from those three. Gon and Killua. Oh, I try to whisper it because every time I say his name, his little head turns. But the two brothers here, I'll just say the two brothers that way, so he doesn't, keep getting confused as to why I'm saying his name. Those two brothers, they were very different. Their personalities were very different. They were so utterly affectionate and lap cat, just like all over, just wanting attention, just wanting cuddles, snuggles, and just like so outwardly expressive, like little children, just voicing their complaints, their desires, their particularities, their pickiness, their choices, just everything. And like their expressions and the faces that they make. And whereas the other three, and again, they all know their name. One of the reasons I try not to say their names too much is because they all know their names, and so I don't want to disturb them. So let me be careful with that, because they do look at me when I say they're like, what is it? So the other three, besides those two brothers, they're much more, how should I put this? They're much more what you would expect of like animal like behavior, if that makes sense. They're more instinct driven, they're more driven by, resource, food, more wild type, if that makes sense. More driven by instincts, food, shelter, warmth. Whereas the two brothers had a lot more, I guess you could say, like, sort of anthropomorphized cognizance to them. They made a lot of decisions that were more based on relationship, recreation, comfort, play, and beyond just like basic necessities and things like that. Whereas the other three, they're much more just like, I'm driven by food, I'm driven by warmth, I'm driven by, a more basic level of comfort, and, what I want, desire, food, that kind of thing. It's not bad by any means, it's not bad, but it's very different from the more open warmth and affection that those two brothers shared and displayed. So I'm also preparing myself for when that time comes to, have those three, and to, exist solely with their personalities and their, the way they behave. And I'm not really gonna have that I'm not gonna have that cat who comes when I call their name. That's another thing about him is when I say his name, no matter where he is, his little head would perk up. Oh, that's another thing, is he would have this thing where he would sit, and then if I would rub my hand down his back, he would suddenly like go, whoo, and raise up his top half and just like stretch a little arc so my hand could move down the curve of his back, down to his tail. And he really liked that. And no matter where I called his name, as soon as I said it, he would come over and just like get all comfy and be like, "You're gonna love on me," and then I would do it. And well, it's another reason why he's called the first baby. But when that time comes and it's just the other three without the brothers, yeah, that relationship we have will be gone, that warmth and affection that I love to give him, and the other three, they won't really accept that. Gone was the most, just like, I'll take everything you give me. You like, you like take your little hand and squish me a little, I'll let out a little purr, any affection you want to give me, I'm here. Let me take it. And same with him, his brother. And when when it's just those three, there won't really be anyone for me to give that affection to. There won't really be anyone to receive that warmth and that particular kind of warmth and affection that I want to give. The other three, like, they don't really go for that as much, or like, I'll be doing it but they don't really recognize it, because they're, especially like two of those three, they're more animal like, so you do that and they don't really recognize it much as anything, whereas with the two brothers, they recognized it as part of the relationship, part of the dynamic, part of the love, part of the way we give to each other, the different love and affection, what I would give to them and then they would give to me, and then back and forth, like that whole thing. Yeah. But that's not really gonna be a thing with just those three. It really isn't. It's gonna be more distant. It's gonna be much more occasional, and I'll learn to solely have that and to love it as much as I can, and in any way to accept it. But yeah. It's one of those things that makes me wonder what it's like to be in love with someone. What happens when you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend who supports you and is there for you and you're there for them. I wonder about that. I've never felt I've never really experienced what it's like to be in love in that way. But the love I have experienced is the love I feel right now for Kilua, and the love I feel still for God, even though he's not here anymore, and the kind of love I do, but also will evolve even more for the other three. Something I was thinking about is currently the feeder setup. When it was 5, there's a feeder with 3 bowls, and there's a feeder with 2 bowls, and when it's just those 3, one of those feeders will get put away, and there will only be the one with the 3 bowl attachment. There's when I go on YouTube, I'll see these channels, especially these sort of reaction channels where you'll have 2 friends sitting next to each other, and they'll be reacting to something. Or you have these like channels where it's like groups of, where they started off as just like a group of friends, and then they have all this camaraderie, and they play off each other, and then they started a project together, and it grew into something. They started a project together, and it grew into something that they loved working on together, and supporting each other, and support themselves with, and it turned into something, and there's, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very beautiful to me. It's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. And I've always wanted that for myself. I really have. I wanted it, desired it intensely. And just to have a job that, can pay my rent and my bills. This, why, the best I can do right now is $12 an hour for 3 days. What's up with that? And no real chance or opportunity for growth, It'll just be that one thing. It'll just be that one thing for over and over and over and ever and ever, as long as I'm there. And I don't know, is there someone out there who would see me and be like, that's who I need, that's who we need, that's who we want, that guy right there, he's got the card with our name on it, that kind of thing. Just this feeling of like, could it be that one day someone will see me or notice something I've been doing and be like, all right. Either we'll hire him or let's pay him to make something. Commission or hire. Whether it's a self business or whatever it is, whether I'm an entrepreneur or something, let's work with him, that kind of, regardless, of what form it takes, let's work with him. And, I wonder what it's like to have that kind of friendship, My one very good friend, like, we don't really have that kind of friendship. He lives like 6 hours away. He lives 6 to 8 hours away. And there's not much we can really do for each other, or share in, or, there aren't many options there, if that makes sense. There's not much ado. And we do what we can, in the ways that we can, but he's got his own life going. We don't really physically hang out, but he's got his own life going, his own career goals, and as much as I try to maybe find ways for us to collaborate on things or to create something, or like, hey, could you put out a good word for me? That kind of thing. Or you know what I do, right? And if any opportunity comes up and you see someone who maybe could be interested, maybe put out a good word for me, but it never really materializes or happens. Nothing ever comes of it. But he does say that he does, or that he will. I don't know if he actually has, but and I don't blame him for that. Sometimes he's forgetful. He's not doing it to be malicious or purposely negligent. He really does just like tend to forget things sometimes. But yeah, every step so far, every shot I take is into the dark. And oftentimes those shots just keep going into the darkness, and there's no evidence really that they ever got fired off in the first place. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I want to be honest with you, and I don't mean this to try and sound like vain or envious or anything like that. But this this channel, as of this journal, I noticed has 10 subscribers. And I'm going to be honest with you, that 10 subscribers is probably the most anyone has ever, at least in the second that they subscribed, cared about anything I've ever really done. Does that make sense? I think it does. Seriously. For real. Just these 10 subscribers on this channel, like, yeah. I have other channels. One of them is where I post music composition for the short films that I worked on. I post the music and things like that. And that channel has like an impressive amount of videos for. It's mostly when I was in that film course and the music I produced and composed for it, and the music that other students in that course. Basically, I made it an archive of that course's music and some of my own music as well. And that only ever got up to 3 subscribers. One of them was sort of like a pity subscribe from my one very good friend, and then another one is like someone who was in that class, and I don't know who the third person is. Could be another classmate, but like I've never managed to go beyond like 3 people who cared or showed interest. And today on Instagram, I reposted my commission sheets, just to give them new life, and it's like, no one has seen it. It gives you the numbers and comparisons and the reels and stuff, and like here, I'll tell you about it. So the new version, the original version got 103. The new reposting of it has only gotten 40. It's not too impressive. My most viewed thing had 157, but the thing is that I don't have something to post every single day, I mainly use it kind of like a portfolio, just to put artwork on. And something about that, I don't know, kept it afloat in the algorithm or something. And then the moment I stopped, doing it every single day, constantly, it just like, nobody sees it. But I'm going to be honest with you. I still haven't even gotten on to the Twitter thing yet. I've been so busy with job and application and getting these things going. I was actually going to start that tonight. I was going to start that tonight after I finished watching that video from that person about how they made money doing artwork, and see if I can get some pointers on that. I'm gonna be honest with you, my heart does feel a little more still since I started doing this journal and just started talking through these feelings, I'm going through this kind of swirl of dread, as I mentioned. But now it feels a little less weighty at the moment. My heart isn't beating as quickly. A little less panicked. I said the same thing yesterday, so when I did that journal, and then it came back. So, I might end up saying the same thing tomorrow, Yeah. Life just feels off. Everything's a little off center. Nothing is, and I have, it's like being in a storm, but you're alone on this giant boat. You have no crew. You can't even go outside to check on the anchors. You're just stuck in the cabin. And the most you can do is just tidy up, You can sweep the floor. You can keep the pictures on the wall. But the rest of the boat, it's you can't, you can only anchor yourself to the ground of your cabin, but you can't actually find any anchors for the ship. The ship is just stuck in the storm, and you don't really know what's going on or what will happen. But it's getting jostled and tousled, and there's no other crew on the ship. But, that's my best analogy for now. Just, it's like all the only anchors I have are things to just keep me calm, Keep myself calm, keep myself centered, having a anxiety attack, keep myself from having an anxiety attack or something. That's the most I can do, is just anchor and center myself. But in terms of the ship, in terms of the boat, in terms of life, there's just nothing really I can do. So much is just dependent on other people. I remember one time I applied to, if you ever heard of this animated series called The Wingfeather Saga, I applied to that as a storyboard artist or a character designer. Both, basically. And that was my first attempt to throw something out, even just intern-based. And, that one, that was the most interaction I've ever gotten. That he actually got back to me. He even emailed me, and in the end, he was just like, we don't really have a fit for you. Your stuff's not up to industry grade, that kind of thing. So, I did not have the time or the energy, or, I was busy trying to navigate. It was one of those things where I guess, imagine almost like you have a makeshift anchor inside the cabin and you try to toss it through the door, hoping it'll go outside the ship, hook onto a rock, that kind of thing. But, yeah, I was and am still, in the middle of the storm. So, if it doesn't hook onto the rock, I don't really have time to reinforce the anchor or, make the anchor better necessarily any more than when I threw it out. So I end up having to toss out lines, and if they don't catch, I just have to move on and keep trying to steady myself in the cabin, keep the leaks from flooding it, that kind of thing. Yeah, not a very stable life, not a very strong foundation, no support. No support from any angle, any deck, no crew, no family, that kind of thing. I don't know. Who do you rely on? Who helps? Not necessarily rely on. I don't mean in a dependent sense, but is there someone in your life who is your support? Friends, a family member, something. For me, I'm just on this boat with my now 4 cats. Might end up soon with 3. And all I can do is prepare an anchor as much as I can at that moment, and then toss it out and work on the next one, and hope that one rock, is the right shape, is the right, hope that one rock just takes a hold. Or, a mermaid or something. Poseidon. Or a whale, that it hooks on to something. At least a whale, it hooks on to a whale and might, drag me to shore, Just whatever it is, situation, people, opportunity, an idea. And again, it's not even necessarily an external, even just coming up with a really good idea, a good path forward, learning something that allows me to move forward. It could be anything. It could be external, internal. And it feels like all my ideas are getting used up just trying to keep myself from, dying inside the cabin before I can even think about tossing it outside the ship half the time. And, yeah. I mean, if you ever can't... It's one thing to be apprehensive or have fear or be scared of something new or different, It's one thing to just be like, this is unfamiliar, so it's scary to me, and then you get used to it after you do it for a while, or, things kind of settle into place. But I wonder, have you ever had that feeling, the feeling that life is just fundamentally wrong or off, if that makes sense? It's like, for me, I've been cornered, I've been cornered by, well, primarily another person's decisions. And I don't mean that to try and pass blame. I'm doing as much as I can, figure. I'm doing to the best of my ability to my estimation, I'm putting in the effort, I'm trying, I'm willing, but what do you do, when it's like, where you've ended up is just, you're cornered with no decision, no real choice, no, nowhere to go, nothing, how do you reset the playing field? It's like my boat, the boat is here, but like someone like they never purchased a new rotor, they never purchased like a new engine, and like all the windows were removed. They didn't hire a crew, It's like, would it just be best to get to one of the rowboats and just leave the ship? Do you know this? You know this concept of when you get into like a discussion or a debate or something. There are times when someone else tries to kind of like trap you in their framing, and it's a trap though. It's a trick to like keep you trying to sort of defend yourself, or to suddenly you're arguing definitions, or a position that had nothing to do. Like there's this in Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, there's this one part where like this tribunal, this judge, this law-based thing going on, suddenly tries to flip things onto Cisco and get him to defend himself. And this is something I never understood why I liked it until like this year or last year, but this was like years ago before I realized any of this stuff. But it always stuck out to me, the way he said, "I'm not going to stand here and defend myself." Just the way he refused to like even let the conversation veer. Like, this has nothing to do with that. You're gonna stick with why we're here. Something about the way he rejected the framing of it, and sometimes I wonder, like, can I just reject the framing of the boat? What would that even look like? If I just jumped into the sea, or got on a rowboat, one of the rowboats, and just rowed away, or do I just let the house of cards fall apart so that I can move on to another build with something better? It's like I was left in a house of cards, a game that someone else started, and now I'm just trying to keep playing it, keep the house of cards from collapsing. But do I just let it collapse? Is that the best way to escape a situation? I guess like the real equivalent I can think of. The real equivalent I can think of is like, yeah, just run out of money, go homeless, just let, or just not necessarily let, but just coast into this failure and let the boat go, and just like, because as long as this boat's here, I'm scared to talk to anyone. I don't ask for help because I'm just trying to keep it. Because the thing about trying to maintain it is that the fear of the asking is just gonna end up collapsing it right under you. So you just try to do it on your own. But if I did just let it fall apart, like, what would that? It would just force something to happen. It would force the future to change. Right now it's all maintenance. But what happens if you just let the thing break? Then your only choice is to come up with a new solution, or improvise, or ask someone to borrow theirs to replace it, or ask for help, or seek out support, or other people, or get reset into a position where like there's just practically nothing you can do for yourself. You know, I know that sounds a bit extreme, but I'm just wondering about it. Like, at least then, could get over that hump and just, there's nothing left to do. Ask for help, that kind of thing. Ask something, something like that. As of right now, it's all internal, but what happens when it becomes external? What happens when other people know about the situation? What happens when there's just nothing you can do for yourself anymore? Like what? Is there a program who is like, here, we'll take you in temporary housing and we'll set you up with a better path? Would that actually like help me to get a higher paying job? That, I put out all these applications, and the thing that I get is like $12 an hour. What if I did that other thing? Would that like help me find a way? Would they look and say there's no way $12 an hour could possibly support living, you know, like this for as many hours as you get at here? We can clearly see that. You can't support much with this, so here, we're going to set you up with our backing. I would have backing. Does that make sense? Does any of this make sense? I'm sure it does. I'm not saying that that's what I'm going to do, but I just want to ponder this for a second and just like think about it. Think about it. It's like just like that kind of backing, and then it'd be like, here, we'll get you, I don't know, 15, 7, we'll get you what you need to be able to pay and to live. Not, I don't mean literally just like give you, I mean like, teach a man to fish kind of thing. We'll get you the opportunities you need to be able to support yourself. Because I guess normally on, you have family who helps with that. You have support structures. You have, I had a parent, and I had a figure like that, and instead of any preparation, it was just them purposely holding things back. And and then running away and abandoning and just leaving me with that house of cards, but leaving me with that boat, but with no windows, no rotor, no anchor, no crew, nothing to work with. Nothing to work with, and broken things to have to maintain. And I wonder if there's some way to reset the playing field, and get left with a raw deal. When is your boat just sunk cost? A whole boat, the SS sunk cost, and you're just going, and then you just gotta reset and get out of the boat, when it's just not worth, when it's better to just restart, left in this very twisted, malformed, dysfunctional machine. Would it just be better to let it break down and restart? I'm thinking. I'm thinking. They reset the playing field. That's interesting. Alright, well, I'll stop here for now. I think I'll talk about something more fun tomorrow. Right now I'm gonna go see if Kilua has the appetite to eat. I hope he does. Alright.